G'day. So we're back again. It's been a big day of wrestling. We're going to be talking about NXT TakeOver Chicago. Now, there's an interesting card on this one in the fact that I think it may have peaked too early, and it may have been with the match that we were looking forward to the most. It's weird to have to say this about an NXT pay-per-view, but it seems like it was very lackluster. Speaking of lackluster, I think it's time we'll just start with the very opening match that I think you might have already forgotten, Jesse, which is Eric Young with Sanity versus Roderick Strong.
Oh God, that was this event?
Yeah, it was, man. It was a thing that happened, and I don't understand Eric Strong. Oh, fucking Eric Strong, Roderick Strong. I don't understand why he's so popular in NXT at the moment. I'm not sure if it's just his Ring of Honor popularity bleeding over into this with the...
He's definitely generic enough to be a Ring of Honor star.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, it definitely has almost... they've been trying to build up his personality, and it's like, oh, but he had a kid. He had a kid.
He has no personality.
And I'm like, okay, whatever. So anyway, so during the entrance, Strong decided to sneak in and attack Sanity in his own entrance outside the ring. So that's Alexander Wolf and Killian Dane. So he could get a couple of shots in on Eric Young without the interference. So I can appreciate the storytelling aspect there. It still doesn't make up for Roderick's generic look and generic moves and stuff. But I mean, at least they're trying. He gets a lot of good, strong kicks in, and EY eventually lifts Roddy in the corner, wrenching his neck, which I thought was a really good way, just lifting him up and then wrenching the neck in that. I thought that looked good, and it's definitely pushing EY as this... He's a guy that is... They try to promote him as unstable, but I think in this it's like he's malicious, and that's what you need to look out for. Every time Roderick tried to go outside the ring or had a limb outside of it, he was attacked by Sanity, which once again is good and is putting over Sanity. If you get out, you're just going to get fucked up.
A human cage match.
A human cage match, to quote ECW. Good kicks, and the ending involved was EY was sitting up on the top of the rope and he fell. Well, he got pushed onto Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf on the outside, which incapacitated them. They fell down, and he was then dazed on top of them as he just fallen on them. Roderick Strong goes out, picks him up, throws him back in the ring, and does the double knee backbreaker, and has a quick win. Now, that being said, that is pretty much everything I remember from this match. And that is it.
I remember Roderick Strong had some good-looking moves, but not enough to impress me.
Yeah, and that seems to be the general feel. Like, until he gets more of a character than I'm a guy that has some kids. It's like, yeah, cool. So you and Heath Slater both. And it's just like...
Heath Slater does it well, though.
Yeah, and it's like... look, if you want to be taken seriously, you can do that, but you got to do enough to make me feel like you're worth taking seriously at the same time. And Roderick Strong does not do that. Either way, it was a good ending to the match, but everything else is really forgettable.
It's something.
It's something. Next we have the match that we'll probably end up talking the most about, because I feel that it was definitely the match of the card. It was the best one by far.
Too many good spots to show all in the replays.
Too many good spots to show in the replays. That is correct, sir. We had the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne versus the WWE United Kingdom Champion Tyler Bate. So this match was fucking amazing. Like,
yes.
I'm just from memory alone, I remember it like it was beginning with some brawling, and even then it was just like, oh man, what's happened? The crowd was intense. The crowd was so into this, and that once again added to it. I was a bit worried. I was like, okay, how's the UK brand gonna fare on an American television show, especially NXT? And they have their own unique tastes, and they prefer a certain kind of flavor instead of maybe what you'd get on a Raw or a SmackDown. Even NXT fans don't really like the cruiserweights that much. They're very much insular, and they're like, you have to prove yourself here before we can, like you. But straight out of the gate, they were popular. There was a massive chanting for Pete Dunne. Everyone seemed to like him, but that's not to say that Tyler Bate didn't have his fans in the audience. I could hear chants for both. It just seems that Bruiserweight was the heavier hitting chant. Now, the story of the match was how malicious Dunne was in order to take the belt. He would do everything. It was shown in his mannerisms, in his moves. Everything that he was doing was to show, I am going to do everything I can, and everything, even if it's not exactly legal, to take this belt from you. And it really added to the match. We had another amazing suplex to the ring apron by Dunne. And Dunne in this entire match, as is his usual MO, he was slow and methodical. The joint manipulation just to cause pain to Tyler Bate. It was great. It was fun to watch, and I was surprised at how energetic not only the crowd was, but how much interest I myself had in this match. I was like, holy shit, I'm super excited about this. I
was very impressed by the psychology of Pete Dunne. How it was baiting Tyler Bate into going where he wanted him to.
Exactly.
With all baiting him out of the ring and doing shit out there, and then pulling him in when he wants to pin him is all great.
Yeah, definitely, man. And Tyler Bate does this delayed suplex, and that looks great. When he goes and Pete Dunne was able to get him in that triangle hold capture, we get a couple of very, intimidating looking punches and elbows straight while he's caught and captured that, and the crowd was loud. This was the loudest they would get of the night, perhaps. And the only thing I could think would be a couple of moments during the main event.
A particular intro.
Yeah.
Entrance as well, but that's that.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say that as well. When they finally decided to have their almost punch off, where it was the tired but good-looking punches. These were punches that looked like punches. I think people like Dean Ambrose and fucking Seth Rollins, they can take note here. These were punches that looked like punches. They at least had the form of ferocity behind them, and it looked more than fucking... It outclassed Cena's shadow boxing by a fucking mile. It was amazing. I was so impressed. And the fact that they were tired and sluggish, it made this even... more impressive. The trading of the blows, which led to the rope bounce clothesline, that, once again, it seems that Tyler Bate has innovated, because I've never seen that ever done before.
Yeah, he's definitely coming to his own style, which I can really appreciate.
This match was easily the match of the night to me, and it ends with, Tyler Bate was reversing a bitter end to a DDT, and when he tried to do that again, he jumped outside of the ring. Pete Dunne then pushed him into the ground, pushed his head into the ground, picked him up, threw him back into the ring, and then bitter end to Tyler Bate, which ends this amazing match with Pete Dunne as the new WWE.
The only bitter end to hit as well.
Exactly.
Keeping its legitimacy.
And it was, it ends with Pete Dunne becoming the WWE United Kingdom champion. We had chants of UK in this, which I had never expected in an American audience.
If you can get an American crowd to chant UK, you've got something good.
Now, I will ask you this, Jesse. First of all, what did you think of the match? Because, I've been kind of gushing over here. And two, do you think it was a mistake to put these guys on the NXT card?
Oh, man. Well, this match was pretty amazing. Before I saw it, I was like, Pete Dunne, I don't know. I wasn't quite sure about him. But then once it came out and actually did everything, there was 2 or 3 spots that were just fucking amazing. Mm-hmm. There was one he did on the ring apron, which was fucking amazing.
Yes.
That was the spot that, okay, Pete Dunne, okay, fine. So I was actually surprisingly pleased when he won. He was like, yeah, man, now we have 2 legitimate people I can follow the UK.
Yeah, man.
I feel like the NXT roster, I feel like they were hoping the NXT guys to be a bit better than they were, I think. I don't know, there was something about the NXT matches that seemed a bit maybe because they were just so like NXT matches. They were very similar to what we've already seen, so we were used to all of it. But I wouldn't necessarily call it a mistake, but maybe you should try a bit harder next time. I don't know.
It seems to me that by having these guys go out and deliver this like amazing match, that instead of, you know, when they give this challenge to follow that, nobody could.
I mean, Bobby Roode came out. Like the thing is, they were like, okay, follow with Bobby Roode because he could do it. But then it's like,
so
wasn't quite as spectacular.
Well, how they got to follow it was the three-way dance for the NXT Women's Championship.
That was
Ruby Riott versus Nikki Cross versus Asuka, who was the champion at the time. So, at the very beginning of the match, I think this would become a telling point for the rest of the card, except maybe the ending I could debate. But in comparison to previous NXT takeovers, NXT TakeOver Chicago was characterized by blasé, uninteresting opponents. These people did not really gel well together, and even if they were, you know, good and athletically okay in being wrestlers, if you look at like Roderick Strong and Eric Young, there's no real emotion there. If you look at this three-way triple threat, there's not really any emotion there. And when you would look at things later like Hideo Itami versus Bobby Roode, there's not very much emotion there. And they tried to build it.
I don't understand that whole Bobby Roode versus Itami, because it's like, oh great, the guy that's been on injury for a long time versus the guy who just beat Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't know.
Exactly. So with that triple threat for the NXT Women's Championship, it started with Nikki Cross throwing her jacket at Riott, which
immediately was a dumb move. Why would you go after fucking Asuka, who's actually the champion? It makes no sense to go after the other one.
I feel that the only way that we can explain this behavior in terms of a kayfabe term would be that Nikki Cross's gimmick is being manic and unstable. So I guess that plays well for Asuka.
Because you're unstable doesn't mean you're an idiot.
That is true. I think that is a misgiving and a mistake on the writing of this part, and any triple threat where they don't team up really to attack the champion and try and get them out of the way.
Especially fighting Asuka, who's undefeated.
Yeah, and so I get that, this is probably why they did it. I don't agree with why they did it, though. So Nikki Cross doesn't really appear to work with Ruby Riott, and will oftentimes really stop an assault on one person just to go over to the other person. Yeah. And I was just
there was even one point where Ruby Riott and Asuka team up against one. It's like, what? That's what we should be happening.
And something that's even more like, don't do this ever again. Ruby Riott screamed Riot.
Yeah.
Please don't do that. That's cringy. I know that's a word that most people don't like to hear, but like when I see that, I'm like, Joe,
I don't like to hear riots.
Just don't do that. Speaking of when you were saying they teamed up, we have Asuka grabbing Cross, and then Riott kicked Nikki Cross, and then Asuka did her German suplex on her. And when she, finished her suplex, she received a kick in the face for her troubles by Ruby Riott. This wasn't like... it didn't really end the match, and I feel like if that's how you were to do it, that would have been good, because it's just like, oh yeah, and then, Ruby took the initiative and pinned Asuka. No, instead we get Nikki getting up and then trapping Asuka in the ring apron later, and then did a hanging neck breaker when she took her over into the corner of the ring. Once again, this didn't really amount to anything, because Riott would come in later, and even though there was that one clothesline from the both of them to Asuka, they just continued going at one another, and so while Ruby Riott attempted to pin Nikki Cross, Nikki Cross kicked out and sort of pushed up Ruby Riott into the oncoming Asuka kick, and because of that, the kick connected. Nikki Cross falls down. Ruby Riott falls down onto Cross, and Asuka then pins them both, which is
which is a complete barrier of the entire.
especially when you're like, Asuka doesn't need to be given a massive push. She's been champion for, I think they said 400 days, so over a year. She's well tenured. She's shown that she's very capable of what she does.
Get it, okay, guys?
It's like, I like Asuka. This was not a good Asuka match, I feel. This was,
Well, putting in a three-way champions in immediately, so like...
There have been times before where we've said that we would much prefer Asuka in singles competition because that's where she is able to shine. That's not saying that this was a bad match. I'm just saying when you have this kind of takeover, you do expect more, and in this case, more proved to be less. So, Asuka retains her NXT Women's Championship and continues on with her long reigning championship. Next we had Hideo Itami versus Bobby Roode. Now, the story here is that Itami wants to come back from his injuries and he wants to be able to prove that he's still able to do what he does. And not only that, he feels like he missed the boat because during his multiple injuries, everyone else that he started off in NXT with has gone on to the main roster. Everyone's become somebody. Everybody has moved up, and the angle for Bobby Roode here is that he sees Itami as a remnant of the old NXT where it was nothing, and it's like an embarrassment to him because he's like, I hold the NXT title, and in my NXT, this is something worth holding. This is a prestigious title. When I look back at what NXT used to be, it's embarrassing to me. So you're the last remnant of that, and not only that, but when you returned, you just slapped me it was very disrespectful. And so we have this match, and we do have a great piano intro, and Bobby Roode's intros are always great, and they always get the crowd pumped up. And I had forgotten earlier when I was saying about loud reactions. The crowd always gets into Bobby Roode's intro. That being said,
I think it lasts so long just so they can fucking belt out the fucking lyrics.
Oh yeah, it's definitely one of the crowd-pleasing aspects of the show. Bobby Roode starts off with his glorious taunt, which causes Itami to immediately go on the offensive during the taunt to try and deliver the go to sleep. Now, I would like to say this right here and now. There was CM Punk chance because of the whole go to sleep move, and I would like to remember, or at least say to everybody out there that might be agreeing with this, Hideo Itami was the innovator of that move, and CM Punk decided to use that in WWE. So
much like Jake Roberts and Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah, so Tommy Dreamer says. But, so, I mean, I get it. It's Chicago. Someone's using the GTS. I mean, obviously, I feel that WWE would have fucking seen this coming, so even though they find the CM Punk chance embarrassing, if you're in Chicago and you're using the go to sleep, it's gonna happen. So obviously I'm not the biggest fan of those chants. I think they should go, but, I can understand why they happened. So
there's a logic leap there that makes sense.
Hideo does his impressive kicks, which I'm glad, because that's what he's fucking known for. If they looked shit, then that would that would just be disappointing, and that would unfortunately work against him in the storyline and in the wrestling match itself. Luckily, we do get some basic but impressive moves, which I think is the name of the match, where it's like everything was done okay, everything was done to standard, but nothing was exceeding that standard. I feel like
as far as the entire event goes, apart from the UK match, it's all just okay into a standard, but nothing special.
And that might be it. And it could be that NXT has such a high pedigree with us and our expectations that when something like this does happen, you're kind of disappointed.
The problem is that you had the fucking UK Championship match, which actually did manage to fucking beat it, and it was like, well, suddenly the stuff that doesn't beat it is like, but who cares? Yeah. We get Hideo retorting to Bobby's taunts and insults with a slap. So then Bobby gets thrown into the ring post, which he hurt his shoulder on that, or at least that's the story we'll
go with the ring, and that story was sold continuously in good old Impact style. This means that Bobby Roode is unable to deliver the glorious DDT that he usually does, and Hideo also goes for the go to sleep, and his knee is out. So we have these two injured people, and this is like what the match then becomes. It's like, who is able to overcome their injury? Yeah, hashtag. But anyway, so we get this match continuing on, and after some serious like stiff sort of slaps from Itami, we get Bobby Roode to hit the glorious DDT twice out of the attempt of the GTS by Itami, which allows Bobby Roode to pin and retain. Now, this was good, but it wasn't great. And when if you watch this entire event, it's just a real shame. Like, if this had come before the UK Championship, it would have been good. But the expectation and the elevation of the crowd was already at its peak, and it was all just downhill slant from there. Which wasn't to say that the matches were bad, but once again, that was the level they had to surpass, and they did not. They didn't even climb the peak, to be honest. Nothing was done particularly wrong by Bobby Roode or Itami here. It's just an unfortunate circumstance. We have our final match, which was... It's good that it was a tag team match, the NXT tag team match, which goes to show that, hey, teams can be as prestigious as the main title. I like that you can have a show ending with a tag team, and it really managed to sell what was going to happen later, but, you know, there are a couple of issues I have. So the Authors of Pain, who were the NXT Tag Team Champions, fought the hashtag DIY, still a dumb name. And this starts off, as it usually does, with the DIY scuffling against the more powerful and more dominant Authors of Pain. It eventually led to a... basically outside the ring, where DIY took the initiative to stun the Authors of Pain and quickly grab the ladders. The AOP doing their standard monster heel tag team things of throwing people, smashing things with ladders. We had a ladder spot outside the ring with DIY climbing up a ladder after setting the ladders on top of the barricades, and both jumping down onto the Authors of Pain. It was
only one ladder break, so which is disappointing.
Which is that is true. I feel like, you know, it was good that Paul Ellering did get involved as a manager.
Yes, it made me nostalgic.
Yeah, which it's always fun when that happens. And he got super kicked by Gargano for his troubles. And this match continues on in pretty dominant fashion for the Authors of Pain. And while DIY did get their attacks in, it wasn't enough to stop the AOP. Because while we get this dumb, or at least I personally think it was dumb, moment of Gargano saving Ciampa from getting smashed in the head with a ladder. And he jumps in a way like, you know, taking a bullet for a friend, and I was like, oh, okay, here we go. But, you know, they managed to overcome, eventually, and kick a member of the Authors of Pain when he was inside the ladder. They climb up. Unfortunately, the Authors of Pain grab them both, hit them with the Super Collider, you know, hit them with that, climb the ladders, get the title. Authors of Pain retain in a pretty dominant fashion. I have nothing against the Authors of Pain. They were doing their job as the monster heels here, and there was a couple of really good spots, but at the very end we have the DIY betrayal of Tommaso Ciampa.
Hashtag betrayal.
Betraying Johnny Gargano just as the show was about to close, at the top of the ramp, by throwing him into some tables. Yeah, I don't care.
No, not at all.
Which means
I was actually more annoyed because, if they make me watch this shit now.
Yeah.
End it.
The thing that this tells me is that this was fucking wasted and done too early. If nobody fucking cared, like, don't get me wrong, the NXT people seem to be into it not, crazily into it.
They're into anything. They're fucking NXT fans.
That is true. Let's say that we've had DIY on the main roster for a year or two. They're doing okay, but they can't overcome the one team, so that's when we have this betrayal, but we have it done at the end of a WrestleMania. After these people
Essence of the Rockers.
Yeah, we do something where it's just like, it means something that these two people have fucking broken up. It's not just like, I
guess they're broken up now. I guess they're enemies.
Yeah, because ultimately from a story perspective as well, this just shows them to be like, wow, if we consider NXT to be the proving ground, the little leagues to the major leagues of the Raw and SmackDown, these guys were having trouble in the training ground, so they decided, fuck that.
Even then, it's like, oh, look, we our entire thing was to work up to get that fucking belt shot. They get the belt shot, and then as soon as they lose, fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, we couldn't
just give
beat
up
them
immediately.
It's disappointing, and it makes me... I didn't really like #DIY that much anyway, and then, seeing this, I'm like, I feel nothing, which means you did it wrong.
Yep.
All in all, this was a pay-per-view. It was
a good match, and plus some extra stuff.
My recommendation to you would be, if you want to watch it all, don't watch it in order.
No. Watch everything, then watch the second match.
Exactly. Or if you just want to watch one match, then of course just watch the UK Championship. That was the greatest match.
It was pretty spectacular.
I haven't seen a match like that in a long time, and
except for the UK Championship special. But.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, man, these guys are
they're doing some great stuff down there, man.
They're doing something, and they did enough of something to make Asuka, Bobby Roode, and the Authors of Pain all look average.
These two 20-year-olds.
Yeah. It's like, geez. I can only imagine what these guys have for the future. It's great to have this kind of energy.
The old men and the young boys are the most important part of wrestling.
And that is completely true. I think that the pay-per-view was alright with a great, excellent peak. What do you think, Jesse, to lead us out?
I feel like the peak was so good that everything else looked like a fucking plane.
And since this has been a massive weekend for wrestling, what do you feel about comparing, if you had to say to someone, watch either NXT TakeOver Chicago or watch the UK tournament special, the UK Championship special?
Just watch from the UK Championship special, watch the main event, and then watch the championship from the a TNA TakeOver event. Just watch Tyler Bate matches. Just go to that.
You heard it here, guys. Tyler Bate. Tyler Bate. Na 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 na.